Most people wake up every day reacting to life. Winners wake up designing it. The difference between struggle and success is not luck. It's the invisible habits you repeat when nobody is watching. Most people build their entire life around a dangerous lie. I'll start when I feel motivated. They wait for the right mood, the right energy, the right moment, the right sign from the universe. And while they are waiting, years quietly pass. The truth is uncomfortable, but it is simple. Motivation is unreliable, emotional, and temporary. It comes and goes like weather. Discipline, on the other hand, is a decision. It is a standard. It is a rule you set for your own behavior regardless of how you feel on a given day. High performers do not wake up inspired every morning. They wake up committed. They understand that feelings are not a valid excuse for inaction. Some days you will feel strong, some days you will feel tired, bored, anxious, or unconfident. If your progress depends on your emotions, your life will move in circles forever. Discipline is what creates forward motion when motivation disappears. It is the ability to do what must be done even when you don't feel like doing it. It is the invisible backbone behind every visible success. The world celebrates talent, intelligence, and luck, but behind the scenes, discipline is doing all the heavy lifting. It is the habit of showing up when nobody is clapping. It is the habit of doing the boring work when nobody is watching. It is the habit of staying consistent when results are slow and progress feels invisible. Successful people do not rely on willpower alone because willpower gets tired. They build systems. They wake up at the same time every day. They work at the same time every day. They exercise at the same time every day. They review their performance at the same time every day. They reduce decision fatigue by turning important behaviors into routines. When something becomes a routine, it stops requiring motivation. It becomes automatic, and what becomes automatic becomes unstoppable. Discipline is not about being extreme or perfect. It is about being predictable. It is about doing small, correct actions repeatedly until they compound into massive results. Most people underestimate how powerful small actions are when done consistently. They want dramatic changes and quick transformations. They ignore the quiet power of daily effort. But the truth is, success is rarely the result of one big moment. It is the result of thousands of small moments handled correctly. It is the result of reading 10 pages a day instead of scrolling for 10 minutes. It is the result of making one uncomfortable phone call instead of avoiding it. It is the result of going for a short walk when you feel lazy. These tiny acts of discipline look insignificant in the moment, but over years they create an enormous gap between those who win and those who wish. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect in action. It is you proving to yourself that your future matters more than your comfort. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, even a small one, you build trust in yourself. And self-trust is one of the most valuable assets a human being can have. When you trust yourself, you stop second-guessing, you stop negotiating with excuses, you stop quitting when things get hard. You develop an inner authority that does not depend on other people's approval. On the other hand, every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken your confidence. You teach your mind that your words mean nothing. Over time, this creates self-doubt, procrastination, and low standards. That is why discipline must start small. Do not promise yourself 10 hours of work if you cannot even do 30 minutes. Do not promise yourself a perfect lifestyle if you cannot even fix your sleep schedule. Start with commitments so small they feel almost too easy. Then keep them no matter what. Show up even when it feels pointless, especially when it feels pointless, because that is when discipline is being trained. That is when your identity is being reshaped. You are no longer someone who tries. You are someone who does what they said they would do, and identity is everything. Once you start seeing yourself as a disciplined person, your behavior automatically begins to align with that identity. You stop asking, do I feel like doing this, and start asking, what does a disciplined person do in this situation? This single shift changes everything. Discipline also teaches you emotional independence. You stop letting moods control your actions. You stop letting external circumstances decide your effort. You become stable in an unstable world. While others are productive only when things are easy, you remain productive even when things are hard. This makes you incredibly dangerous in a competitive environment because most people quit when they feel discomfort. They avoid boredom. Most people live their entire lives trapped inside a very small time frame. They think in days, weekends, paychecks, and quick wins. They want fast results, instant validation, and immediate comfort. And because of that, they make decisions that feel good now but cost them later. Long-term thinkers operate on a completely different clock. They think in years, decades, and legacy. They are willing to feel uncomfortable today so they can be unstoppable tomorrow. They understand that every meaningful outcome in life is delayed. Real success is slow, boring, and repetitive in the beginning. It does not arrive with fireworks. It arrives quietly, disguised as routine, patience, and consistency. In the early stages, it looks like nothing is happening. You work, you learn, you invest, you improve, and the results barely move. This is the phase where most people quit. They say it's not working. They say it's not worth it. They say they'll try something else. Long-term thinkers stay. They keep showing up even when progress is invisible. They understand a simple truth. Just because you cannot see growth does not mean growth is not happening. Roots grow underground before trees grow above ground. Skills grow silently before they create visible value. Reputations grow quietly before they create public recognition. Those who understand this never panic when results are slow. They stay calm, they stay focused, they stay patient, they trust the process because they understand the mathematics of compounding. Small improvements done consistently over a long period of time create massive outcomes. A 1% improvement every day does not feel impressive, but over years it creates an unstoppable advantage. Most people underestimate how powerful time really is. They overestimate what they can do in a week and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. Long-term thinkers reverse that mistake. They design their lives around durable value, not temporary excitement. They invest in skills that will still matter 10 years from now. They build relationships that will still matter 20 years from now. They protect their health because they know energy is the real currency of success. They care about their reputation because they know trust compounds just like money. While short-term thinkers chase trends, long-term thinkers build foundations. While short-term thinkers jump from one opportunity to another, long-term thinkers stay in one game long enough to master it. While short-term thinkers want quick money, long-term thinkers want sustainable power. They are not obsessed with being rich next year. They are obsessed with being relevant, respected, and resilient for the next 40 years. This mindset changes how they make. When a long-term thinker faces a choice, they do not ask, what feels good right now? They ask, what will I thank myself for 10 years from now? They do not choose comfort over growth. They choose growth over comfort. They do not choose popularity over principles. They choose principles over popularity. They do not choose speed over stability. They choose stability over speed. This makes them look slow in the beginning. It makes them look conservative. It makes them look boring. But over time, it makes them look inevitable. Because while others are burning out, starting over, and chasing the next shiny thing, long-term thinkers are quietly building something that cannot be easily replaced. They are building judgment. They are building credibility. They are building emotional control. They are building systems that work without their constant effort. They are building assets instead of just income. And assets, whether they are skills, businesses, networks, or reputation, create leverage. Leverage is what allows a small amount of effort to produce a large amount of results. Short-term thinkers live in constant urgency. Everything feels like an emergency. Every setback feels like a disaster. Every delay feels like failure. Long-term thinkers live in strategic patience. They understand that volatility is normal. They understand that setbacks are part of the path. They understand that nothing meaningful grows in a straight line. When they lose money, they study the lesson. When they lose a deal, they analyze what went wrong. When they lose time, they redesign their systems. They do not panic, they adapt. They treat every failure as tuition for future success. This gives them emotional stability in a chaotic world. And emotional stability is a competitive advantage because most people make their worst decisions when they are emotional. They sell at the bottom, they quit at the hardest part, they give up right before the breakthrough. Long-term thinkers do the opposite. They double down when things are hard. They invest when others are fearful, when others are desperate. They stay calm when others are desperate. They stay focused when others are distracted. Over time, this creates an enormous gap in results. The moment you decide to take full responsibility for your life begins to change in ways most people never experience. Radical responsibility is not a slogan. It is a mindset shift so powerful that it instantly separates leaders from victims. Most people spend their entire lives looking for someone or something to blame: the economy, their parents, their boss, their country, their bad luck, their past, their education, their relationships. Blame feels good because it protects the ego. It allows you to say, "It's not my fault." But while blame protects your feelings, it destroys your future. Because the moment you blame something outside of yourself, you also give away your power to change it. High achievers understand this. They do not ask, "Who is responsible for this problem?" They ask, "What part of this is mine to fix?" Even when something truly is unfair. Even when someone else truly made a mistake. Even when the situation truly is not their fault. They still take ownership of the outcome. Why? Because responsibility gives control. Control gives options. Options give freedom. When you stop waiting for the world to change and start changing yourself, everything else begins to respond. Radical responsibility means you stop living reactively and start living intentionally. You stop seeing yourself as a passenger in life and start seeing yourself as the driver. You stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop waiting for someone to rescue you. You become the person who figures things out. You become the person who solves problems instead of creating excuses. This mindset is uncomfortable at first because it removes all hiding places. You can no longer say, "I failed because the system is broken." You have to say, "I failed because my strategy was weak." You can no longer say, "I'm not successful because I didn't get lucky." You have to say, "I'm not successful because I haven't built enough skill yet." This honesty is painful, but it is also incredibly empowering. Because the moment you accept that your results are largely created by your choices, you also accept that you can create different results with different choices. Radical responsibility transforms how you experience setbacks. Instead of feeling like a victim of bad circumstances, you start seeing every problem as feedback. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" Every failure becomes data. Every loss becomes a lesson. Every mistake becomes a training session. This does not mean you ignore your emotions or pretend pain does not exist. It means you refuse to let pain become an excuse for stagnation. You allow yourself to feel disappointed, frustrated, or angry, and then you move forward anyway. You extract wisdom from suffering instead of wasting it. This is how people turn adversity into advantage. They do not get bitter, they get better. They do not get resentful, they get resourceful. They do not get smaller, they get stronger. Radical responsibility also changes how you communicate. You stop using weak language. You stop saying, "I'll try." You start saying, "I will." You stop saying, "I will." You stop saying, "I don't have time." You start saying, "I didn't make it a priority." You stop saying, "They made me do it." You start saying, "I chose to do it." These small shifts in language reflect massive shifts in mindset. When you speak like a leader, you start thinking like a leader. When you think like a leader, you start acting like a leader. And when you act like a leader, people start treating you like one. Radical responsibility also forces you to develop skills instead of excuses. Most people spend years explaining why something cannot be done. High achievers spend those same years learning how to do it. They invest in their education. They seek feedback. They hire coaches. They read books. They study their mistakes. They practice deliberately. They understand that ignorance is not a life sentence. It is a temporary condition that can be cured with effort. First leads to for sequem. Instead of saying, "I'm not good at this," they say, "I'm not good at this yet." That single word, "yet," changes everything. It turns a fixed identity into a growth trajectory. It transforms insecurity into motivation. It transforms fear into curiosity. Radical responsibility also makes you brutally honest about your habits. You stop pretending that your problems are mysterious. You start tracing them back to your daily behavior. If you are broke, you look at how you spend and earn. If you are unhealthy, you look at how you eat and move. If you are lonely, you look at how you communicate and connect. If you are stuck in your career, you look at how you learn and perform. This level of honesty is rare because it is uncomfortable. It forces you to confront your own inconsistency, laziness, and self-sabotage. But it also gives you something priceless: clarity. And clarity is power. Success is not a secret, and it is not accidental. It is not created by luck, talent, or fleeting inspiration. It is created by consistent choices, daily actions, and invisible habits that accumulate over years. So, the difference between ordinary lives and extraordinary lives is rarely about intelligence or opportunity. It is almost always about mindset, discipline, responsibility, focus, and reflection. The people who win in life are not necessarily faster, smarter, or luckier. They are the ones who commit to mastering themselves first. They understand that the real battle is not external, it is internal. It is the quiet battle against procrastination, distraction, fear, and doubt that happens every morning before anyone else notices. They build systems that force consistency when motivation fades. They focus on the long term when the short term looks urgent. They take responsibility for their results even when circumstances are unfair. They master one thing deeply before attempting everything at once. They reflect daily, measuring, auditing, and adjusting themselves to stay on the path of growth. All of this sounds simple, and it is, but simplicity is deceptive. It is easy to understand, but very hard to execute. Most people fail not because they do not know what to do, but because they cannot consistently do what they know. This is where the real work begins: choosing to act when it is inconvenient, boring, or uncomfortable, choosing to stay patient when progress feels invisible, choosing to refine your habits when nobody is watching. Every massive achievement is the result of invisible consistency compounded over years. Every fortune, every breakthrough, every reputation was built quietly through countless small, correct actions repeated relentlessly. The people who achieve greatness understand that success is a long game, and the world rewards patience, not speed. They do not chase applause, they build standards. They do not chase shortcuts, they create systems. They do not chase luck, they become reliable. Discipline becomes their backbone, responsibility becomes their shield, becomes their engine. Reflection becomes their compass. And over time, these invisible forces shape an extraordinary life that others often call genius or talent, but which is really nothing more than relentless commitment to invisible principles. The world will always offer excuses and distractions, chaos and unpredictability, criticism and competition. Most people surrender to these forces. They let life happen to them instead of shaping life for themselves. Extraordinary people do the opposite. They use these forces as fuel. They convert chaos into clarity, distraction into focus, criticism into insight, and competition into opportunity. They understand that the external world is always uncertain, but the internal world is always under construction. If they control their thoughts, their habits, and their standards, they control their outcomes.